Joining us right now is John Keim, covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. Hey, John.
What up, fellas?
So I don't know that it gets better. They just keep losing, but at least they got competitive with Jacoby Brissett in the game once again. You're a guy, I'm not a guy who watches the All-22 or film. I watch the game on TV like most people, but you got a little more insight. What do you see in the offense that's different with Jacoby Brissett in there than Sam Howell?
Yeah, I think he's a little bit more decisive. I think that experience matters. And so you see him getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker. I also think sometimes that, Jacoby's 6'4". So there are some times where you see guys getting pushed kind of into his lap, but it's not disrupting him as much as it might somebody who's 6'1". And one of the things they talked about with Howell earlier in the year, and even in the offseason, is kind of mimicking or copying what New Orleans did with Drew Brees and building that stout interior to give him that room and to have that vision, right? I think that has happened kind of a couple times. I think there's sometimes he throws with a little bit more level of trust and anticipation, and I think that touchdown pass to Logan Thomas was a sign of that. I think a lot of it does come back to his experience. I mean, he's a smart player, and he did have a good year last year for Cleveland. Their problems in Cleveland last year was the defense. It was horrible, but he was not. So I think there's a few factors like that. But even like last week, he ran against the Rams more of a 2-minute offense. So it's kind of designed to get it going fast, right? And so it was a little bit different than just running regular offense. But I do think that's part of it, is that he just knows where to go and gets it there.
So I guess at some point today we will find out who the starter is going to be at quarterback. But don't all signs right now basically point to Brissett being the guy? Like, do you really think Ron is going to trot out Sam Howell again after as bad as he's been the past 2 weeks? I just don't see that happening.
I don't either. And if, I don't know for sure right now, but if I had to bet, that's where I would go as the Jacoby, because if it was just Howell, you kind of just come out and say it because he's been starting, but he did leave it open the other day. He did not leave it as open last week against the Rams, though I do think there was a should they think about that type scenario last week. And so I think if you start thinking a little bit about it last week, then and the same scenario presents itself again, that you're probably going to make the move. And, I think part of it too, there's now a 16 games on Sam Howell. So people who need to make a decision on him have enough information to go on. I also think, you're playing two really good defenses coming up. Maybe it'd just be better to kind of shut it down so it doesn't get worse for him. But also you have a lot of vets on that team who winning still matters to. And I know everybody wants a draft pick. The players don't care about that. The coaches, certainly don't care about that now because they probably won't be back. So I think, that Jacoby gives them the ability to go out there, compete, and maybe pull off an upset, or at least, like I said, to be competitive. And I think that's something that, might be a part of it.
All right, so, John, let's flip the script. Let's talk about Sam Howell. Even after the Giants game where he threw 3 interceptions and they lost, the fan base, I went back and looked at a poll. The fan base, 2/3 of them still thought Howell was the future quarterback, going to be the starter next year, build around him. All right, that is flipped. Somehow there's actually still 30% that identify themselves as Howlers. But most people have abandoned ship, and they don't think he's the guy. What happened to him? He had 17 touchdowns and 9 picks at one point, and you could have made that case that you could build the team around him. He's at 19 touchdowns, 17 picks now, and he's just looked lost in the sauce, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think some of it, the schedule got a lot tougher as far as the defenses they were playing, and that was always a concern of mine, and it's why you kind of wait till the end of the season. That's why to make a full evaluation. And I know, even John Allen was like at one point, well, he's a guy for the next 5 to 10 years. But you have to wait to get all the information. So I think the schedule kind of played into it. I also wonder if, there's a physical and mental toll that comes with this. and he was sacked a lot, hit a lot. Other quarterbacks have been hit a lot too, but you wonder about what toll does it take? And I think there were some times too that he started to try to rely on making some of those big plays we saw in New England. He made several plays that were just tremendous off schedule. Mm-hmm. But those, when you're kind of living by that, you're going to die by that. And we saw it, against the Rams where he had the one interception where he passes up Antonio Gibson, tries to throw back to the middle to Terry McLaurin, and it's bounced up and picked off.
Seems like he's done that a lot where he's had easier plays and he's tried to make the bigger play.
Yes, and that's what I mean. Like you when you start living like that, I think that's one thing Jacoby does well. Is like I saw that a couple times just rewatching. Like, okay, there's a 5-yard gain. That's perfect. That's all you need. Get it out. It's not there. Get it over here. And I think that's something he's still learning. There was a play the other day where he gets chased out to his left, and rather than throwing it out of bounds, he tries to throw it back to the middle. It was actually from deep in their own territory, and it wasn't picked off. I think one of the linemen knocked the ball out of somebody's hands because somebody hit his arm, but it was just a bad decision because it was going to be picked off. It was just a dangerous throw, and I just wonder if you start relying on that, how it can mess you up. And I think he needs to. I think one of the things they'd like to see him do is throw with a little bit more trust and anticipation, and not just wait till he's open, to get more in rhythm on the on-schedule plays. So I think it's a combination of kind of all that. And I also wonder too, one of the picks the other day, it's because the receiver fell. I mean, early in the game, they did not help him. And sometimes it's the line. The 2 drops on the first 2 plays, one of which was picked off. That stuff adds up, but it also, you wonder if it kind of pecks away at your confidence a little bit, or maybe your style or how you're thinking it. So I don't know, and part of it is he's young still.
Yeah, he's definitely young. What I'd say about the drops, though, John, is he's also had potential interceptions dropped along the way. Yeah. And so it usually bounces out.
Every quarterback has both. I mean, the numbers are what they are, and this is where he's at right now. But when you're younger and you're struggling, that stuff is going to hurt you a little bit more because, now it's like, now do you start pressing a little bit rather than if you're a vet, it's like you just take a deep breath and keep playing, right? So, but yeah, I mean, every quarterback has those, and every quarterback has a guy makes some really good catches who bails you out. But, bottom line is, again, this is why you wait for a full season to evaluate where someone is at and what they could be. And I don't think, Sam Howell is certainly not done as a starter in this league, I don't think. He's young. I don't know where, when and where he'll get that opportunity. Maybe it's still here. I don't know. But you can certainly, when somebody's coming in this offseason, they're going to be looking hard at that position. And at best for him, he'd be competing for a job, and maybe just a backup. I don't know, but my point is he's young enough to still recover in this league. It's not, I'm not going to write him off just yet, but I will say that job is still not filled.
John, the running back room is a mess right now. Rodriguez had a really nice game, found the end zone twice, averaged 5.8 yards per carry, but he has his right foot in a boot as he left the locker room. Robinson's still dealing with the hamstring. Williams has been concussed, so they had to sign Jarrett Patterson off the street to the practice squad. What's that room going to look like on Sunday against the Niners?
not ideal. That's what it'll look like. Because you also have Derek Gore, who's been here. So it's going to be a tough one. That's, I think we know that, right? You don't have you, and Antonio Gibson will still be there too, and he's done a nice job this year. Just as an all-around back, but yeah, you lose your 2 best running back, power backs, right? With Robinson and Rodriguez, and even Jonathan Williams if he doesn't play. So, yeah, not ideal.
Let's switch over to defense for a second. How is Manny Forbes holding up, especially mentally, after a really trying rookie campaign with the nagging injuries, the benchings, the sporadic playing time? It has not gone according to plan.
It has not. And to his credit, one of the things that has impressed me with him is just the way he has handled it. The way and in talking to people in the building, they really like how he's handled it with them, but even with us, going up to him and talking to him about why are you struggling, et cetera. He's answered every question and without a trace of like bitterness toward the questions. I mean, he's handled it in a very mature way, which what does that mean for his future? I don't know, but I do know that's how he's handled it with us. And, not everybody handles it like that, especially when you're a rookie and you're a first-round pick and you're coming in with high expectations and haven't achieved them. I've been around some guys like that who did not handle it very well, but he has. Now the question is he going to get better? Is he going to work on the things that they need him to, and to become a good starter regardless of who here is coaching? And that, I think, remains to be seen.
We were talking about the tight ends. I think that there was some optimism about the tight end room before the season, but at least what it looks like is they're going to need to upgrade a tight end. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm with that. In the spring, before the draft, I liked the potential of that room because I also like the guy who's missing is Armani Rogers. And I think I was really curious to see where he was going to go because I thought he was a guy who could take a big jump based on what he did last year, new to the position, really good athlete, fast, can make guys miss. Still thought it'd be all right because you thought Cole Turner would take a step, and that has not happened. And I think part of the problem for him, he can, some of the, like as a blocker in line, he's not very good. And that kind of reduces what you can do with him in this offense because, he's pretty good at like some of the slice blocks coming behind the line and taking out a D end because you're on the move. But when he's out line, it's not going to happen. So it's difficult to use him. And as a receiver, he hasn't done enough to offset that inability. And then Logan Thomas, I mean, I think he can still be effective, but I think you need someone who you can watch some other guys who make guys miss after the catch. You do this, that. And I think that's something they definitely need to add to that room, if nothing else. But yeah, I was a little bit, Curtis Hodges never really, they kept him around. He still hasn't done anything and, came around and now he's on IR. So it's been a disappointment. So, and, Logan, I think, still offers something. He's still a big target, but I think you need to get somebody, could you find someone who's got a little bit more dynamic ability? And I think that's what you could look for in the offseason.
All right, John. They continue to lose. They're probably going to lose right through the offseason, but it'll be a busy offseason from GM search to coach to what they're going to do in the draft.
Yep, very busy.
Yep.
One of the busiest off seasons after one of the busier off seasons. So, 5 picks in the top 100, 90 million cap space. It's going to be very interesting this off season.
Yeah,
you know what you need to do is just dust off your articles after the Shanny era and after the Gruden era because it's all ended with this type of crash.
They're all boilerplate. They're good to go.
It's locked and loaded.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
John Keim covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. Yeah. I'm not going to need the back patting machine because I said it conditionally, so I'm not going to take credit. But I did say roughly 5 or 6 weeks ago that this could end with a spectacular crash, and that is what is happening.
It is happening. We're watching that
because that's what happens. We all knew that this was likely Rivera's last season here.
Yes.
You said he needed to win a playoff game.
Oh,
he at least needed to get to the playoffs if Josh Harris was going to say, you know what, I'm going to bring back Ron Rivera for a fifth season.
He's won me over.
He needed to at least get there.
Yeah.
Build off the 500 last year. If you think 500 was an accomplishment, they were 8-1 last year. He needed to do better than that.
He's making Josh Harris's decision so easy. Here's Josh Harris. He's just got his feet up. He's not even sweating the decision to get rid of Ron. Like, it is the biggest no-brainer ever.
And then Ron fires
so easy.
Jack Del Rio, sacrificial lamb. I'm not saying Del Rio deserved to be here, but he does that. To me, that was a ceremonial play. Sacrificial lamb. Let's fire somebody. Oh, yeah, let's fire the defensive coordinator. I'll call the defensive plays. Boy, the defense has really changed with Ron Rivera calling the plays.
Like everything Ron touches, the defense has gotten worse.
Has it gotten worse?
I think it's gotten worse.
I feel like it's the same. I feel like it's the same.
I think
but if you want to say it's worse, fine. It's worse.
It's to my eyeballs, it looks worse. Now, it could just be guys like toward the end or just like, you know what, season's lost. I'm not going to work as hard as I've worked every single week. Like it's just kind of a natural evolution to the end of the season.
But we have seen this. I mean, I'm mentioning the most recent ones. Shanny, terrible last season. He gets bounced. You look for a new head coach. Then you, of course, are optimistic for a while. Then it crashes and burns with Gruden and Callahan, and it's doing the same thing here. But Zorny, same thing, right? We were horny for Zorny for his first 8 games.
Right.
Then that season kind of crashed. They were 6-2, finished off 8-8. Then his second season was terrible. The old ball coach, Spurrier, he had his presser at the end. What was it? 5-11, not very good. Out of here.
Yep, classic Spurrier.
But this may be, I mean, it's up there with rock bottoms. They're going to finish 4-13, Cakes, after a 2-0 start.
Yeah.
They started off 2-0.
It's called you're hemorrhaging. Hemorrhaging in the final season.
You know when this team peaked this season? It was that moral victory. When we did moral victory Monday.
Against the Eagles?
Because didn't they drop the 2-2 right there?
Believe so. That's one
like
where
we thought,
Ron wouldn't go for 2 to win the game.
Yeah, could have gone for the win to make them 3-1.
The guys are too tired. They're too tired to go for 2. That was his excuse.
I mean,
by the way, a quick nugget from our pal JP Finley. He tweeted this 39 minutes ago at JP Finley NBCS. Ron's media availability has been moved up from about 2 p.m. to 10:45 a.m. Expect quarterback news. Maybe you already did.
Like, there you go. Right after our show.
I don't see if there's any. I don't see any path for him to turn back to Sam Howell at this point. Like John Keim said, you've seen Sam Howell for 16 games. What more are you going to see against 2 really tough defenses that's going to change your mind to close the season? It's Jacoby Brissett time. And I know everybody who wants them to tank and lose the games, Ron's not about tanking. Ron wants to finish on a high note and wants to possibly win the last 2 games. And he's going to go with a quarterback that gives him a better chance. And that quarterback right now is not Sam Howell.